We're going to get started here today. I appreciate, like last month, everyone jumping on, spending some time together here. Excited, like last month, but even more excited this month for the presenter today, Meghan Bingham here, part of the Granite Peak team. She recently joined the team about a month ago. An outstanding background, which I'm sure she'll dive into, and the ability to offer just a unique perspective outside of just financial statements and tax discussion. So Meghan grew up in practice. She spent time working in a kennel, to a technician, to a receptionist, all the way up to practice manager. Today, we're going to talk about smart hiring, which is, I feel like pricing and hiring and retention is two of the hotbed topics that we're always discussing. So we'll keep a similar format here, about 30-minute presentation, open it up for some Q&A at the end, 10 to 15 minutes to get everyone back to their days by about 12:45. So I'm sure Meghan will say either questions along the way or questions at the end, but if, as always, use the chat and we can certainly help to facilitate that. So turn it over to you, Meghan.
I'm up. Okay. Hey, thanks y'all for joining. I know that it's Friday and there's a lot going on, I'm sure. But I appreciate you being here. So we're going to say for this to work today, we got to close our eyes. We have to pretend that we're living in a time where there are people to hire and people that show up for interviews. So I know it's hard to imagine. We're not really living in that time right now, but I promise I can help where I can. Not a miracle worker, can't get the bodies in the door, but can try to make sure that we're getting the best bodies through that apply. Like I said, I can't fix our current workforce crisis. I'm sorry, I wish I could, but we can be mindful through the process so that when we are interviewing these people, we're making sure that we're not just hiring more bodies. I know, I'm sorry. It's probably not a very popular opinion. We'll plow through. So you're probably wondering what makes me qualified to talk about smart hiring. A little bit about me. Like Jared said, I grew up in private practice. I grew up from a 1 doctor to a 12 doctor. Admittedly, that was back in the day when there were DVMs to hire. So I had experience hiring everybody from, third-year vet students to cranky people, doctors on their way out, vet students, seasoned DVMs, everybody in between. So managing a large, seemingly revolving staff, 12 doctors, usually a staff about 47, 48, depending on the day. I realized quickly that I needed a system in place to kind of move through the process and make it a little bit smoother for me. I've made some great hires in my day. I've also made some very regrettable hires in my day. So let's learn from my mistakes. We don't want to keep doing the same old thing over and over again and wondering why this isn't working. I fully admit that I've hired people for the wrong reasons. Maybe I thought they were, adorable or funny, or at some point showing up was just enough to be like, you're hired. But since I am not a Disney princess, I was not able to fix them. So hopefully we can all do better on that. Sometimes you need a warm body. Sometimes you need a placeholder that's standing upright and is breathing. But I think more often than not, those warm bodies turn into a dumpster fire. So let's avoid the bad hires from the start and come up with a plan. So what's the plan? I think with a few mindful actions, we can ensure we're focusing on hiring the right person for the right reasons. We're going to focus on the big picture. We're going to work as a team, and we're going to stick to the plan. Okay, that's gonna be the theme. You guys are gonna see. We're gonna stick to the plan. The ideas we go over might not be a perfect fit for your practice, but hopefully they will get some wheels turning. I encourage you to use them as a starting point to see where you want to have your plan kind of land. And I'm going to leave some time at the end. Like Jared said, we're going to discuss questions, anything you have, anything that's worked for you that might work for others. Let's go ahead and share that. And then any of the documents that I'm sharing today, please just email me and I'm happy to share those with you as well. So between quiet quitting and the increased popularity of call outs, because that's right before you even open, you've had 3 text messages that just make you cringe. You might feel like you need to overstaff just to break even. Maybe, but do you really need to bring on a new team member? I think a few points to consider before just saying oh my gosh, we have to hire. Can you afford a new hire, right? Let's say you want to hire a full-time licensed technician, say $22 an hour. Maybe that's a deal for you. Maybe that's overpriced. But that ends up to be about $880 a week, which is $1,760 a payroll, potentially $45,760 a year, not including taxes, benefits, vacations, etc. And is that the best use right now of your $46,000? Let's think about that. If you're insured, you can look at your doctor staff ratio. So I think 1 to 3 is a little lean. AHA recommends 1 to 4. I think that's the sweet spot for a lot of us. Anything more than that, and you're probably overstaffed unless you just have that like dynamic doctor who's a crazy producer, and then good for you and you can do whatever you want. But I don't know that we're all in that category. So I think if we try to stay within some benchmarks and keep it lean, and keep our staff engaged, then maybe we won't just be hiring to hire. So if we can take the emotion out and assess if you're truly busy enough to support another hire. I know we are all very busy all the time. I get it. I've done it. We're all in the trenches. We're all in the weeds. Everything's on fire. I get it. But is another tech going to ease that burden? Let's think about it. Will they allow you to see more appointments? Cool. Maybe you can schedule more tech appointments or dental cleanings. Okay. If so, let's do it. If not, maybe we should hold off for just a minute. And might be an unpopular opinion, but do you have the times and resources to onboard and train the new hire? Because we really want to set them up for success. If we don't have the bandwidth and can't properly train a new hire, maybe we should hold off. I'm not opposed to outsourcing. If you want to outsource your training and you can do that, like I'm all for it. But I think to be fair to the team member that we're bringing on and to ensure their success, we need to be doing our best to set them up, not just throwing them in the deep end. I know if you need a body, you're busy and you don't have time to train, but that's not really fair to them. It's not gonna work out for any of us. So we're getting to the good part now. Okay, thank you for keeping along. Let's create the ideal candidate persona. I encourage you to make this a group effort. Really think about this. This could be part of a team meeting. Like, what is our ideal candidate? If we could just pick anyone in the world, do I want The Rock to be my lead technician? Yeah, maybe I do. But why? So here's your chance to be honest with your needs. If you need a full-time licensed technician with 2 to 5 years of experience who can work weekends, we're going to write that down. We're going to think about our must-haves. We're going to think about our deal breakers. And that can be anything from like, I need them to be able to intubate a cat, or maybe I need them to laugh at dad jokes. Like, you know your practice. And so you need to have it, you need a good fit, whatever that fit might be. This is kind of, I use this for softer skills. Generally, I can teach someone how to do a jug stick on a cat, but I can't make them tolerate my doctor's love of show tunes. So like some things, there's a little give and take on everything. You're trying to create your blueprint of your perfect employee. So anything goes here. Use it. You can refer back to it. It can change. Like maybe now we need this type of persona and maybe 6 months from now we need a different. So I would encourage you for every new hire that whatever space you're trying to fill, like let's refresh this. Okay. Next, we're going to use this awesome job description that we just, or person description that we just created to create a kick-ass want ad. Gone are the days of copying and pasting your summary of your job description and just having the applicants roll in. Like we can't do that anymore. It's really cutthroat out there. So we've got to be different. We're going to be honest about who we are, and we're going to be honest about what we need. We're going to spell it out. We're going to say, hey, we need a full-time technician with 2 to 5 years experience who can work the weekends, but we're going to try to make it a little bit fun. We're going to include our personality. Maybe we include a pun because that's who we are. Or we talk about the fun run that we participate in every year, or the baseball game that we go to. Including your practice's personality can really help attract the like-minded individuals. A fun run's not going to appeal to me, but a dad joke, I will think maybe you're kind of clever. And for the love of all things, please, at this point, we're going to include a salary range, even if your state doesn't require it. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's also going to help funnel the correct caliber of employees your way without wasting any time. Like if somebody wants $30 an hour and this is a $12 job, let's not worry about interviewing them. It's not the right fit. This, I think, is a good time. If you're not already using ChatGPT, if you haven't met them yet, this would be a perfect time to try it. ChatGPT is a free AI tool that's great for writing prompts. You take your want ad, throw it in there, say, make it sound more professional, and it'll come up with a whole new want ad for you. Or you can say, make it more appealing to millennials, and it's going to throw in some emojis and some exclamation marks. In seconds, you can have an updated version of your want ad, and I think that that's going to go a long way to show your personality. Okay. So we've created this want ad. We want to share it with the world. We're going to create a budget because that's important, right? We're going to see what that gets us. I think for a DVM, you probably need to spend a lot more money than you do for lay staff. So depending on your area, I think maybe $20 a day for a tech ad would be sufficient. Also, post on all those free ads. Seems like Facebook has a VetMed group for everything. I would use those, source of referrals. I would caution you for putting a want ad on your practice's Facebook page unless you're open and willing to interview and hire clients. That feels like a real slippery slope. I'm sure that people have really good intentions, but the woman with 18 cats is not going to be my ideal technician. Like, oh, no. I'd also really like a jobs tab on your website that you keep updated, because I think people will peruse your website and look there. And if you've got a jobs tab, then they can go there and know that you're hiring. I'd also encourage employer referrals. If somebody's who's working for you enjoys working for you and would vouch for a friend of theirs, like, that's great. I have no problem bringing on a technician from a referral from an employee. You can even, a lot of people pay for referrals, which is great too. Okay, so depending on your level of need, I'd say let's post this ad for 3 to 5 days before assessing if it's successful or not. If you're not generating any interest, we need to change it up. Maybe we need to pay a little bit more daily. Maybe we need a catchier headline. We need to do something different, because we're not just going to let this roll for 30 days and get 2 applicants and say, like, oh, this isn't working. Like, we don't want to keep throwing good money after bad. I think the most important part of this aspect is to be responsive. We're not dating. We don't need to be coy. We don't need to wait 48 hours to respond. Chances are good if someone's applying to you, they're also applying for multiple positions. They're probably just throwing it against the wall and see who responds. So be the one who responds. Don't let a candidate pass you by because you don't want to appear desperate. I think we all know that we're a little desperate at this point, so it's okay to appear interested, right? Like, I want someone who wants me. So let's get back to them quickly. Let's refer back to our ideal candidate persona. So if you've got their resume and you've got your ideal candidate persona, within a few minutes of reading over it if they're checking the right boxes for you. I think the polite thing to do is to acknowledge every applicant you've received. Like the person who grew up with chickens and wants to be a doctor. Like, yeah, bye, but like, thanks for your time. Thank them for your interest in your practice. Let them know either they're not, you're not exactly what we're looking for, or we're going to be in touch in 24 hours to schedule a phone interview. So if the applicant aligns with your ideal candidate persona, I would suggest that oh, look, whoops, I skipped a slide. My bad. Here I am, round 1. If the applicant aligns with your ideal candidate persona, I'd suggest that the practice manager is the one to conduct the first interview. It's their job. They know the clinic. They know exactly what you need. And they probably have the most experience in interviewing candidates. So I created these forms, and we've got a round 1 and a round 2, because I found it hard to keep candidates straight. So I wanted to be able to have some notes that were, in line with, I could ask question A to 4 people and still be able to refer back to it 10 days later. I wanted to ensure I was asking the same questions, so I was comparing them fairly. And like, I'm not suggesting that you go on autopilot and say, like, okay, question number 1. Like, use this as a guide and have a conversation with them, and then just fill in some of the blanks as you're going. I recommend taking good notes, right? I think that that's helpful to refer back on. But warning, we should all know that you can't judge them based on their social media pages. So stalking them only goes so far. You need to keep that as an internal memo, not a written memo, because your notes can be subpoenaed if you're ever involved in a discrimination claim. So if you do have to take notes, write it on a sticky note so you can just take that off. But I think, like, maybe you're in the market for a new butterfly tattoo and she's got a pretty butterfly tattoo. Like, let's not write down large butterfly tattoo, because that would be hard to explain in front of a judge. So let's just keep it professional, keep your notes where they need to be. And And let's keep in mind that the interview process is probably the best behavior that they're capable of, right? This is the best you're ever going to see them. Were they late for the call? That's a red flag. Did they not know the practice was cat only or low cost? These are signs that they're not prepared. There's some aspects of vet med that can be teachable, but I need them to take some initiative on that first call. I would like to finish every call with a plan. If you like them, we're going to schedule an in-person interview as soon as possible. No need for back and forth. I don't need to say like, let me check my schedule. Like, I need to know what my schedule is. I need to invite you. Are you available to come in Tuesday at 10 a.m.? Great. Please dress in scrubs and wear closed-toed shoes. See you then. If you know they're not going to be a good fit because you've talked to them and you know this is your job, let's just say, hey, we're still working through interviews. We'll be in touch by the end of the week. Like, no hard feelings. We plan on moving forward with the applicant. I'd use this time for reference checks. Ooh. Talking to references is totally underutilized. And I don't know that this is like the sister's friend's mom who thinks you're good. This is like previous job reference check. I think that the tone in someone's voice when talking about a former employee can speak volumes. And so I think that this is a really important time to kind of get the feel of how they were as an employee at a past job. Some states are sticklers on what you can ask, but I think just picking up the phone and speaking to another human, we all have emotions and I think we're all passionate about our jobs. And so I think that comes across when you're talking about somebody and saying like, oh, right, yes, they're eligible for rehire. What do I know? You know, like they're just going to share some things and just let them talk because they will share some things that you couldn't even imagine asking that then you're like, oh, so good to know. So I encourage you to do reference checks. We've made it to round 2. That means that this candidate met our ideal persona criteria and showed up and scored well on their first round interview. So we are like 3 layers into liking this person. That is huge. This is when I found a lot of value in giving just an easy peasy quiz to every applicant before we started the first round. They'd check in at the front desk. We'd hand them a clipboard and a pen. Not intense. These are questions that anybody applying. I had a different kennel and technician and CSR one, but for my technicians, like what diseases does a feline combo test check for? You should probably know that. What does NPO mean? Easy enough. If they took 30 minutes to complete it, I knew we were kind of in trouble. If they Googled all the answers, I knew we were kind of in trouble, but at least I knew because everybody comes in saying like, oh, I know I can do surgery on my own, you know? And so I think that this is a good way to kind of assess where we're at. I use this interview to flesh out the applicant's deal breakers. If they can't stand drama and you know your group is just made out of drama, this might not be a good fit for them. It's an important time, I think, to reflect on your practice honestly and just know that you're not going to be able to mold this person into what you want them to be. I also want to bring up unsavory aspects of vet med. There's going to be poop and there's going to be lots of it. That's important to know if you're new to vet med. If you do declaws, not everyone's down for that. If you work with a rescue who wants to have pregnant spays, like these are things that are routine for us in your practice, but might not be so routine for the applicant. I think it's best to address these concerns early on before you hire someone and learn they faint at the sight of blood, which is a true story. Learn from my mistakes. I think round 2 is the time when your lead technician or whoever will be the applicant's supervisor should lead the majority of the interview. We're going to continue on with round 2 questions and we're going to stick to the plan. This is also the opportunity to have the candidate spend some time with your team, but remember, this is not a working interview. We don't do working interviews anymore. Working interviews imply that we're paying the applicant for their time, and that comes with a whole bunch of other implications, like being eligible for unemployment benefits, which is not what we want to talk about. Don't get me started. We're not doing working interviews. We're doing in-person interviews. We're going to end this interview on time with an updated plan. We'd love to have you join the team. We'll reach out tomorrow with an official offer letter or the go-to, hey, we're still working through the interview process. We'll be in touch by the end of the week. I think both are fair. How about leadership interviews? What are we going to do with those? I'd still stick to the plan. Clearly I like a plan. But I'm going to add in some additional specific questions, especially if this is an internal promotion. Hiring from within is very common in our industry. I'm a product of it. I am not discouraging it. But again, I would recommend sticking to a plan to ensure that the current employee is the best fit and will be well received by your staff, because that's not always the case. Amy Newfield, the industry unicorn, created a leadership internal audit, and I borrowed it. So I am happy to share that with you as well. And that we're going to use to consider promoting from within. If the current team member meets the prerequisites, or if you're interviewing someone outside the practice, I'd continue the questioning and supplement of round 2. But you do want to ask a different level of questions, more in depth, more thoughtful, more role playing, that kind of thing. Ooh, what if you managed to schedule an interview with a DVM? Hey, that is super exciting. What are we going to do now? Don't worry, I got a plan for that too. So I don't think you need to go through the round 1 and round 2 questions with them, because those are kind of basic. So I did come up with a series of questions that are DVM specific. I'm still going to take my notes on them. I've tweaked these questions over the years to get a better feel for the person behind the degree. In my experience, most of the DVMs kind of have the same skill set. So what I'm really looking for is a good fit for our clients and our team. I include questions like, what's the worst part of vet med? And I've gotten everything from anal glands, which is true, to clients with no money, which is also true. So I think it's very telling of them, kind of how they think on their feet, how they communicate. So I'm happy to share that with you as well. We're almost at the end. So as someone who has recently been applying for jobs, please, I ask you to follow up, good or bad, kennel worker or DVM. Like, everyone deserves to be, to just be in the loop. Just respond to them. It's not fair to leave people hanging, regardless of the position that they're applying for. So if you say you're going to get back to them by Friday, like, let's just get back to them by Friday, regardless of the outcome. There's no need to list the reasons that they're not a good fit. We're going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to let them know you'll keep their resume on file, because good or bad, like maybe you fit 3 out of the 4 criteria. Like, you're not right for me right now, but maybe in 6 months, that's good. But then also, if they ever apply again and you're like, oh, I feel like I know this person, you can refer back to your notes and be like, I do know this person, doesn't fit, not going to move forward. Circumstances might change. So let's just be polite to everybody. Man. All right. I was blowing through 25 minutes. Okay. That was a lot at once. I totally understand. I am happy to share all of that stuff with you. I didn't want to include it on this because I want you guys to talk to me and interact. So please, if you would like any of those documents to use in practice, reach out to me, email, text, phone, Calendly, invite. That way we can get to know each other. I can help you through. I would love to look at your want ads. I would love to help you come up with a persona. I would love to get you to hire more people. And I am happy to answer questions.
Megan, one of the first questions we got on the chat, it says, do you give your job offers an expiration date?
I mean, it kind of depends on where you're at. If you have more than one candidate, I would say yes, right? Because I don't want to leave candidate 2 hanging. But if I only have one that I like and I need a position filled, I would say politely, let's say like, hey, can you get back to me in a week? And then in the week, I would say like, hey, that. But I don't know that I would say like, this is valid for the next 48 hours.
Any other questions, whether, please, anyone can jump off the mute, or if you want to just toss it in the chat. We have a few more minutes. Question here, start the presentation, you had mentioned the ratio, right? 1 to 3, 1 to 4. Is that all staff, including receptionists? Are you talking DVM to technicians?
That is everybody, full staff to DVMs. Because I mean, essentially we all serve the DVM, right? Like, they're the revenue producer. So the receptionist answering your phone counts towards them. And everybody's different. Like, if you are tech heavy and you're doing tech appointments, you're probably going to need more technicians. If you have a doctor who's still drawing blood and reading ear smears, like, then you can't change that, then you probably need less technicians.
Another one here. Are you still finding the need or requirement for sign-on bonuses or some form of retention bonuses when looking to hire a doctor?
I think it's a very competitive market. So I think if you can offer them other things that are unique, I mean, everybody has different drivers, and sometimes money is a huge driver. So I think personally, so like my soapbox, I would rather be a private practice and not make them sign a non-compete and maybe do a little bit of a profit share instead of a $20,000 bonus. I think that there's workarounds. I think that there's things that people value. Sometimes that isn't dollars. And so working with them can go a long way. And I think that it's hard to get employee, you're never going to get an associate to care as much as an owner. That's probably a given. So if we can motivate them some other way to produce and to show up and to participate. So I would rather pro sal's so popular, but like, I think if we can pro sal with a bonus, that's huge. If we can somehow tie in, and I don't think it always has to be dollars to dollars. I think if you can we did 10 dentals this month and we want to do 15 dentals that next month. Like, I think that there's some drivers that we can use that aren't necessarily production related. Yeah, it's all production related, huh? Maybe tracking some KPIs and bonusing out that way, I think, are unique ways to not have to chunk down a huge amount of money right out the gate.
You hinted at it in your feedback there. Is the need for a non-compete, obviously state specific, even if they hold any weight nowadays, should you be still including that provision in the employment agreement, or is it best left off?
I think that we could do so much better by leaving it off. I think that would speak volumes. And I think that we could be unique and you would be different than the practice down the street if you shouted from the rooftops, we don't have non-competes. I think really what we're after is not stealing our clients. Like, I don't want you to steal my proprietary information and I don't want you to steal my client list. And so I think that it's okay to include those things in a contract. Like, that's just a no-brainer. We need to protect our assets. So that's fine. But I think saying like, you can't work 5 miles away for the next 10 years. Like, I just bought a house in this area, like I think that there's such a negative connotation around non-competes these days. And so if we can massage it to protect the things that we want to protect, but then also act like we're doing this big thing, which like a non-compete's usually illegal in some states, like not very enforceable in most states. So really, like, what are we after? Like, we can be ahead of the curve and celebrate the win and not really be giving up all that much. My opinion.
Follow-up question to a previous one, going back to the ratios again, just to ensure that we're understanding. That also includes the 1 to 4 is inclusive of the practice manager as well, correct?
I mean, that can go either way. Like, if you have a practice manager who is on the floor teching 3 days a week, like, yes, that goes through. If you have a practice manager who is office bound, I would say that's not necessarily, because that's more of an office job than a practice job. So I would say not necessarily into your ratio.
And are you saying this is per shift or just an overall total ratio?
I mean, it should probably be doctor specific. So if you have one doctor that works one day and you have a day that you've got 3 doctors, like, you're going to have to massage that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be overstaffed. You can't have 12 technicians on a day when you only have 1 doctor. So I would hope that we're scheduling smartly and in accordance with how the DVM produces, if that makes sense. Like, there's no magic formula unless you have 3 doctors working 5 days a week with 4 technicians, 4 staff.
You had spoken a little bit about posting and paid advertisements for these jobs. Where are you, seeing the most traction? Is it Indeeds, the state-specific websites, VIN? What are some, common areas, best areas to post?
Where are the people? I don't know. I think that honestly, when it comes down to it, I think the best resource for hiring staff is going to be your current staff. I had the most luck. Like I had my doctors posted on some sort of mommy doctor Facebook group, and that's how I got more doctors. I think that doctors looking for jobs, staff looking for jobs, they're going to Indeed for sure. I think, and it depends on how active your local group is. If, you know, I'm in the state of Texas, so it's huge. So if I pay $500 for an ad, like that's not really hitting my demographic. So usually there's local VMAs that are relatively inexpensive that people might pay attention to. I think what's more important than where you advertise is how you advertise. We want to be different. Like I have so many friends that come to me and they're like, this is my ad. Why isn't this working? Well, because you're giving the same, like these are the same benefits we've had for the past 20 years. Like there's nothing, your salary's not increased, your benefits aren't any different. Like this is the same job ad that 500 other people are posting. So I think the ratio now is like for every DVM looking for a job, there's 19 job openings. So we have to be unique. We have to be different in what we're doing. And maybe you can't do it in money. Maybe I can't offer you the bonuses or the high salary, but maybe I can offer you like a kick-ass staff who's been here for 20 years, or bring your puppy to work. I had a girl who turned their attic into a daycare and like had 3 babies there, like for a nanny share. I think that there's lots of unique ways to reach out to people, and I think that that's more important than where you're doing it. But yes, the popular ones, like you probably, you know, Vin is definitely a good one. I think if you can be clever, LinkedIn is good. I think it's just knowing your audience and tailoring it towards what you're trying to attract. I don't have all the, like, there's not, it's not like it was 10 years ago when we could just like throw anything up and get them all in. So it's a weird time, y'all.
Outstanding. Any other questions here for Megan before we all hop off? What I will say, our only ask for all of these events is we are going to circulate a survey. It should take no more than a couple minutes. All we're looking for is areas for improve upon, topics that you all want to hear about. So that will be circulated. Likewise, give us about a week and we will have Megan's presentation posted over to our YouTube channel for you to view and reference back to. And like she said, she has crafted all of these deliverables. So it's something that you want to see and have in your fingertips, we can absolutely send those over to you as well. So I appreciate everyone, as always, taking some time here with us today. And we're going to hop back on here Friday, April 5th, and go after it again. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.